Hey guys, welcome to the third session of Property Talks with Eugen Tan. In today's session, I'll be sharing with you guys the reasons for our stable market today. Because many of you guys have actually come forth and actually asked me, Eugen, how come during COVID-19, our prices are still at an all-time high? Shouldn't it actually come down? So I decided to actually do this topic today to actually share the reasons. And I apologize, for the late posting because I've been really busy over the weekends. So I finally have time to do this. So without further ado, let me start session 3. So whatever I'm going to share with you guys today, same thing, right? It's based on my own opinion. It doesn't represent others. So please go ahead and do your own due diligence before making any major decisions, right? So in a previous session, I believe I shared with you guys this chart that actually shows the private residential price index, right? So I want to share with you guys a little bit something more in depth today. So you can see from here, this chart actually shows the, all sorts of crises that were happening over the past few years. You have your Asian financial crisis, dot-com crash, SARS, global financial crisis, major cooling measures, and of course, the most recent one, COVID-19. Right, so the first takeaway that we can actually see from this graph is that, of course, end of the day, we can see our property is in an uptrend, right, at about 155.79%. And also we can see that, for Asia, when the Asian financial crisis happened, we had a 47.41% dip, 20.32% for SARS and dot-com crash, 34.33% dip for global financial crisis, 17.64% for your major cooling measures dip, right? And 6.4% dip for your COVID-19, which is the most recent one, right? So what actually happened to the market that made it so stable, right? To the point whereby COVID-19 is a health and financial crisis, but we only experienced a 6.4% dip before it actually rebounded back up. So that's I'm going to share with you guys, what's the reasons, right? It actually has something to do with the cooling measures, right? So I'm going to share with you guys the 3 major changes that restructured the whole property sentiments. Right, first of it being which is the ABSD implementation. Now, I understand that, of course, in recent times, back in 2021, the rates have been revised, but for the sake of this video, I'll be using the rates back when before it was being revised, because when COVID first happened, these rates were still in effect, right? So in the past, right, you can own multiple properties under your own name without having to pay a single ABSD, right? But in today's market sentiments, you can't do that, right? First property, of course, you don't have to pay anything because it's your first property. Second property onwards for Singaporeans, you are paying 12% ABSD, 15% for your third property onwards, right? For PRs, it's 5%, right? 15% for second. Foreigners are straight away 20%, and your non-individuals are 25%. So why did the government implement this ABSD, right? Keep that in mind. I'll explain and summarize everything at the end of the video, right? It will all come together. Now, the next one will be seller stamp duty implementation. Now, in the past, there was no regulation to say that you have to hold on to your property for a set period of time, right? You can buy today and sell next week or 2 weeks later or next month. It doesn't matter, right? But of course, in recent times, you can't do that because if you sell anything within your first year, you have to pay 12% seller stamp duty, right? Within second year, 8%. Within third year, 4%. And after the fourth year, 0%. So why did the government implement this seller stamp duty? What was the underlying reason for that? Right, keep that in mind, yeah? Now, LTV implementation, this is actually the third one and probably the most important one, right? In the past, you can actually own multiple properties, no ABSD, and borrow up to 90% loan, regardless of how many properties you have, right? You can always take a 90% loan, right? But of course, in recent times, right, you can only borrow up to 75% of the purchase price. Second property onwards is 45%. Third property is 35%, and for non-individuals, it's 50%, right? So let's go to the calculators and see how does this work out. Let's take, for instance, right, if let's say we take a $1 million purchase for an example, back in year 2007, with an interest rate of 3.5%, 30-year loan tenure, and 90% loan to value, you're borrowing $900,000 from the bank, and your mortgage repayment is about $4,041, right? As we compare it to today's rate is about 2.65 on average, right? 30-year loan tenure, 75% loan to value, we are borrowing $750,000 from the bank, which calculates to our monthly mortgage repayment to about $3,022, right? Now let's see how our second property works out to be. Let's assume it's also a $1 million property, right? Interest rates are the same, 2.65%, 30-year loan tenure, 45% loan to value, we are borrowing $450,000 from the bank, which brings us down to a mortgage repayment of 1,813, right? So what was the reason for the three implementations, right? Your ABSD, seller stamp duty, and your loan to value implementation, right? ABSD is your additional buyer stamp duty. Because if you understand, in the past, there was no regulation. Property market was very irregulated, right? You have deferred payment schemes, you have schemes that only just pay interest to the developer, you had high interest rates, you had about 3.5%. You can take 90% loan, irregardless of how many properties you own, right? You have you didn't have ABSD, there was no seller stamp duty. The whole property market was so liquid, and that everyone actually over leveraged and lost the holding power when the global financial crisis happened. That caused the 35% drop. Right. So now imagine this, right? If let's say, for example, when it wasn't so regulated as it is right now, right? Imagine an individual has 5 properties, right? 5 $1 million properties each, right? These are all 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, 1 million, and 1 million, right? So this individual buys 5 properties at $1 million each, right? Because he's able to take a 90% loan that gives him a mortgage repayment of, let's say, 4,000 a month, right? So just in a month alone, if he has 5 properties, he is actually paying 20,000 in terms of mortgage, just for mortgage, right? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 20,000 just on mortgage, right? And because there is no ABSD, there's no stopping him from buying, multiple properties, right? He can just pay 10% down payment each and take a 90% loan for every property that he has. And because there's no seller stamp duty, what happens when the property price, what happens when the crisis hit, right? Because there is no fear, right? I don't have to hold on, I don't have to pay anything if I sell earlier. So what happens is that, when the market crash, because of all these irregulations, and some of the people, they might have lost their jobs, and all that, they no longer have the proper holding power. And what happens is that they have no choice but to sell the unit, right? Because there's no seller stamp duty preventing them from doing so. So they're just going to be selling off their properties, offloading everything into the resale market. And when that happens, what happens? You have an increase in your supply, but demand is low. Therefore, this happens, right? This caused the dip in the prices because everybody over leverage. Right. So what was the underlying reason? What was the underlying reasons that the government wanted to do? Right. Now, ABSD. Why did the government implement ABSD? Right. The reason being is because if you are going to buy your second property and your third property onwards, the government wants to make sure that you have enough, you have practiced financial prudence and you have the proper holding power. Therefore, you will have to put in more. Therefore, you have to pay ABSD, right? A 12% additional buyer stamp duty if you're buying your second property. In a way, it's sort of like a deterrence, right? For you to actually prevent you from buying a second property or more, right? But of course, if you can afford it, you have to pay a 12%. If you're okay with it, you can afford it, then go ahead, right? So that's the reason why the government is trying to implement this. They actually implemented this ABSD, right? It's to control the number of properties that people buy so that they do not over leverage. Right, the second one, seller stamp duty. Because in the past, property was too liquid. You can buy today and sell, tomorrow or next week. So government implement this seller stamp duty, right? Reason being is because a lot of these people are trying to speculate. So the government tries to, control the amount of speculation in it. They don't want property to be seen as a speculative vehicle. Right. Therefore, if let's say today you buy a property and within your first year you decide to sell and make a profit out of it, right? You have to pay 12% of a seller stamp duty fee, right? That alone is actually, is almost your profits that you'll be getting if you are selling it, within the first year. So that prevents you from speculating, and you have to hold on your property, and can only sell after the 4th year, right? After your 3-year seller stamp duty is over, you can sell your property in the open market and enjoy your profits. Right. In the meantime, if you sell anything within the first 3 years, you have to pay a prorated seller stamp duty. Right. This is to prevent people from speculating, right, and to prevent properties to be seen as a speculative vehicle. Now, loan to value implementation. Right. Now, in the past, you can take 90% loan for all your properties, and just put 10% down payment. Right. But in recent times, of course, if your first property, second property, or what's the amount goes lower. as the amount of properties you own gets higher, right? If you own more than one property, your loan to value gets lower and lower, right? So this means that you have to put in more down payment. So what happens that we see here, right? When you put in more down payment, what happens to your mortgage repayment? It actually gets lower as well, making it more affordable, right? So the whole entire reason why government changed the loan to value is to properly profile the buyers who are buying properties today. They want to make sure that people who are buying properties today have the proper holding power, have the proper financials to actually own a property. And if those who are buying multiple properties, I mean, aside from their first, right, if they're buying their second or third properties, they have the proper holding power and they have the proper financials to put in that down payment, that 55% down payment, to ensure that they have the proper financials, right? This is to also prevent people from speculating and over leveraging and putting themselves in a financial setback and in a position that they are unable to hold properly, right? So this is the whole entire reason, right? If you lump everything together, the additional buyer stamp duty implementation, your seller stamp duty implementation, and your loan to value implementation, all this is as a result and efforts to try to make sure that people who are buying properties today, you have the proper holding power and you have the proper financials, so that when a crisis hits, like right now, that's the reason why today when we see COVID-19 hit, which is a health and financial crisis, we don't see the property prices, dipping as much as it was before, because everyone who has a property today has the proper holding power, right? They don't over leverage and it's very controlled. Therefore, we don't see a dip as much as before, right? It's only a 6.4% dip, right? And of course, this is a summary of the recent changes that was made, right? Of course, right now, instead of 12% ABSD for your second property for Singaporeans, you're paying 17% right now, right? For your third property onwards, instead of 15%, it has gone up to 25%, right? So they're further controlling it right now. For permanent residents, of course, your first property, no change, is still 5%, right? But second property onwards, it's become 25%, and third property onwards is 30%, right? From foreigners, it has gone up from 20% to 30%, right? And for entities, it has gone from 25% to 35%. So do take note, right? The increase in the additional buyer stamp duties, right? Now, the second one, of course, is the tightening of this total debt servicing ratio, your TDSR, right? It has gone from 60% down to 55%, right? This means that, of course, with the same amount of income, of course, because of the TDSR ratio, you actually, the loan amount gets actually lower based on the same income level, right? So the third one is also, right, loan to value limit for HDBs you can initially take a 90% loan, right, for HDBs, but it has been lowered to 85% as of now, right? So of course, these are the few changes that has taken place recently. So do take note on the recent changes if you guys are actually planning anything for your property journeys, right? If you're planning to buy, if you're planning to sell, do keep yourself updated and take note of the recent changes, right? So that concludes my session for today, right? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Once again, my name is Eugen Tan from Superior Homes, right? If you guys like my video, please like and subscribe. In the next few weeks ahead, I'll also be posting a lot more new content, so stay tuned for that, right? Thank you so much, guys, and have a great day.